My name is Rodney Leonard Bollie.
The Institute of Basic Technology is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to transforming education in under-resourced communities through science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics. A program that began as a hands-on lab model in Liberia, West Africa, that has evolved into an AI-powered educational platform built on over 8 years of real classroom experience. This program was designed to empower teachers and students across sub-Saharan Africa and beyond.
Feel the spirit, lose your mind. Drums are calling through the night.
And today on Bollietv, we are honored to welcome one of the visionary CEOs of the Institute of Basic Technology, Dr. Rodney L. Bollie.
To support teachers in Liberia, in West Africa, in a very contextualized way.
A leader, an innovator, and a driving force behind education and empowerment. So prepare yourself. This is a conversation you don't want to miss.
We rise tonight, shining under moonlit sky. Feel the light, dancing free our spirits high. See a hamba.
Welcome to Bollietv. Once again, my name is Mr. James Bollie. This is your AZ #1 online TV station, Bollie Media also. Today we are diving into a powerful conversation at the intersection of education, innovation, and impact. Across under-resourced communities, access to qualified education remains one of the greatest challenges of our time. But solutions are rising, driven by vision, experience, and technology. Joining us is a leader at the front line of that information. So I'm very pleased today to present to you our guest on Bollietv today, my own brother, and I will turn it over to him so he can introduce himself and give a little background about himself, and then we'll proceed with this program. Now, grab your popcorn because this is going to be very informative and educative. How you doing today, my brother?
I'm doing well. Thank you, James, and thanks for welcoming me to Bollietv. My name is Dr. Rodney Leonard Bollie.
All right. Mr. Bollie, can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself before we can proceed with the rest of the program?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned, my name is Rodney Bollie. I've been working in the field of technology going on 18 years now, and from everything with telecommunications, with 2G all the way to 5G and to satellite comms, and also working with improving connectivity for different communities here in the US and also around the world. And I've been involved with the technology research, specifically looking at education and how technology can help improve education. And my background is I'm an engineer. I've worked also, and I have an undergraduate degree in electrical and computer engineering and a master's in communications as well, and then a PhD in information technology and communications.
That's great to hear. People, if you don't know, this is my brother right here. Same man, same path. So today, he's in the hot seat with Bollietv. You are also the owner and for the Institute of Basic Technology. Is that correct?
That is correct. Institute of Basic Technology was co-founded by my wife, Dr. Sylvia Bollie, and I back in 2015.
That's good to know. So today, my people, most of the questions will come from his background and things that he has been doing, because he's been traveling also back and forth to Liberia. So today we'll be discussing the vision and impact of Institute of Basic Technology that he and his wife own. We'll be talking about the technology and innovation. We'll also be talking about communication and accessibility, teachers' capacity in building, and then we will also be talking about authenticity and data integrity, which will be the discussion on the meeting. The man created something called Teacher Pepe. We'll go into that. And then I will also be asking if AI is real ability and accountability, and real impact versus promises. So you guys just take the seat and get ready, and prepare yourself. So, Mr. Bollie, we're just going to dive into the first discussion, which is about vision and impact. So, I'm just going to ask you this question. Your mission on your page, because I went to you guys' page and the website, read through it. So, your mission emphasizes equitability, access to quality education. How do you measure real impact in the communities you serve?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So, and this takes us all the way back to 2015, and I clearly remember back then when we were when during Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's administration, and it was reported on BBC. I remember that 25,000 students failed the LU entrance, and so. For somebody who grew up in Liberia and understanding the impact of the war on our education system in Liberia, my wife and I, wanted to be able to contribute in ways that can help improve education. And so one of the things we saw that the quality of students who were sitting at the entrance needed to be improved. The access to quality education needed to be improved. So in 2015, we started one of the first STEM lab in the country for high school. So basically kids from across Monrovia could come to our lab and have hands-on experience in science, all of the sciences basically. So they had access to real microscope where they were looking at organisms under the under the microscopes. They could do real chemistry experiment, physics experiment, and so on. And so we wanted to be able to give these students access to those things that they only read about in the textbooks at the high school level, because the thinking was if you could improve the product coming out of high school, you could improve those going into the higher ed, in this case LU. And so that was pretty much what we did. And then we quickly realized that first year the students failed in the WACS or WIEC exam at the time, and primarily it was because we had brought them equipment, but we also didn't understand the context of where the equipments were being deployed. So we had a conversation with these students, and pretty soon we started to understand what really impacted these students wasn't just necessarily the 45 or 1 hour they spent per class at school, or from 8 in the morning to 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So that was just part of the story. So when we started to understand the socioeconomic background, meaning the size of the family, what they had to do after school, that was when we started to realize meaningful impact had to extend beyond the classroom. So we started to tailor the way we do the labs and consider one student, for example, from a large family might have maybe only 20 minutes to study because they have to take care of their siblings while the mom was in the market. Or you might have another student who has hours to study because maybe there was just one kid in the home and both parents were educated. So those were the mixture of things we started to consider, and then tailor the homework, tailor the assignment, tailor the lab to be able to fit these individual needs. And right away at the next WACS exam, we were able to see dramatic improvement where students who had previously failed were passing. So these are schools from Apostolic right there, Vamoma, for example, or Building for Tomorrow, and different schools within the Cinco Belt, for example, they started to see improvement for which our institute was recognized. So to answer your question, Mr. Bollie, what makes this applicable was because we decided to take into account the context of where we were deploying these technological tools. The context was really integral and it was really important to what we were doing. So once we factor in the context, we started to see how relevant what we were doing was.
Wow. That's great. Thank you so much for your contribution to the community. Now, I know you said you went in Monrovia. So did you go outside of Monrovia County?
Yes. So actually, one of the first places we deploy our labs outside of Monrovia was in Banga. So we worked with a small school there off of Banga Broad Street, I believe. And we set up a STEM lab for them, and we had our staff go there for about a few days and trained them, so we gave them drones, we gave them microscopes and chemicals where they were able to replicate most of what we were doing in Monrovia. So we started that collaboration there with the school in Banga. And then quite recently, as of last year, we also started another collaboration with a school in Nimba County, in Ban, Nimba County to be exact. And so now, not only are they doing what we are doing, what we started in Monrovia, but now these schools way out there in Nimba, they are using AI effectively to be able to help the teachers train to teach in Ban, Nimba County.
Yes, I saw the video when you took a tour. You went all the way through Sekipit to Bound, which was very impressive. And I will let the audience see the video so that they can make sure that you know what you're talking about. Now, I just want to ask this question. Say you went outside Montserrat or other places. Now, what does transforming education look like in practical terms for a student since you went all over there in the rural area or on the resource setting?
Yes, so transforming, and that's a good question. So transforming education, because most people now, especially now that we have AI, is taking the AI tools and taking and moving it to other communities or other countries, and pretty much bringing these artificial intelligence engines that were trained on Western data to present, these quote unquote modern education to students, in different parts of the community or in Nimba, for example. So if you don't take into consideration the context of where you are bringing these tools, it would be pretty much meaningless for the most part. So when a teacher is teaching in Nimba, like when I interview one of the teachers in Nimba, for example, when he's teaching something like math, he's using something like maybe what's around there. It could be the rocks, for example, that he might bring to class, or he might use something like maybe like a pankana, something that is ready contextual to Liberia, that is accessible, that students can readily understand when you try to give an example. So what makes our transformative, and I'll be happy to delve into it some more, was with Teacher Pepe, we were able to take all of these local examples, for in physics, instead of using the pool table, because in physics, if you read the modern physics book, they use, when they talk about impulse and momentum, for example, one of the classic examples is the pool table. That's what we use for impulse and momentum. But in Liberia setting, some of these kids haven't seen a pool table, for example, in Nimba. So we switch all of those out and we use marbles. So most kids will know the concept of marbles. Or if we wanted to look at decomposition, for example, instead of using something that's strange to them, we substitute that for a fish like baple, for example, or nample, as some other people might say, and that is what we will use in that specific setting. Is the exact same concept, but you're just using different materials to bring that concept to bear. And what that does for both students and the teachers, is something the students can know and see and understand, and also it's cheaper for the school too, because it's easy to go and purchase a fish as opposed to trying to go buy a very Western expensive equipment to be able to do the exact same thing. So not only are we simplifying the explanation through Teacher Pepe, but we are also giving the teachers ideas on how to use 100 or 50 Liberian dollars to accomplish the exact same thing. So for example, a school in Monrovia can say, a biology teacher could say, I want to do a biology experiment and I want to go to Joba and I only have $100. That's all you need to tell Teacher Pepe. And Teacher Pepe knows already. We have trained Teacher Pepe to know when you go to Joba, these are the things that are there. So we'll give you ideas of what you can buy with that $100 you have to be able to do a STEM experiment for your school. So those are the different ways we have transformed education by making it more contextually relevant to where you deploy those teaching materials.
Which is really good. We'll go into Teacher Pepe. The Teacher Pepe thing, because I really do want people to know what is Teacher Pepe or who is Teacher Pepe. We will go to that. So I want you to relax on Teacher Pepe a little bit. We're just trying to get all the business out of the way first, and then so that people can understand My audience, I hope you guys are following because number one, like I said, this is going to be a very informative and educative interview here today. Now, after 8 years of experience, what has been your most powerful, successful story so far, Mr. Bollie?
Oh, there are lots of stories. And one would be off the top of my head, a kid I met in 2017, 2018 academic year. Elijah, for example. Elijah, brilliant student. We met him in our STEM lab. I don't remember the school he came from. I think he came from Mason Center to school right there on the old road. But he wanted to be a writer, but still he came to our STEM lab and we had an interesting conversation at the time. And so I was curious of why a writer was coming to our STEM lab. But long story short, Elijah got inspired by what we did in the lab. And 2 years ago, Elijah released his first novel. He wrote his first book and credited us with the inspiration for providing, access to that higher level of education to supplement what he was doing in school. And so that's one thing I can think of. And then, like I also mentioned previously, we've gotten, at least from 4 schools in the area, they have presented our institute with a certificate of recognition for how we were able to transform the pass rate in the WACS exam, which was difficult because when we started back then, most of West Africa at the 12th grade level had transitioned from WAEC to WACS, and WACS is heavily lab based. And so with our labs being present, we were able to help these students understand basic laboratory experiments and all of that. And so these schools, this is like I mentioned, Apostolic, Mason Center, and few other schools in the area. They are all on our website, but they were able to see the students go from not passing to passing the very next year in the WACS exam. In fact, there's a school in Bannersville, St. Paul. So St. Paul, a couple of years ago, their WACS exam results were so good that the WACS, the WAEC authority had to hold on to the exam to go and examine the results to be sure they hadn't cheated on the test. That was how good the pass rate was. And so when they couldn't find any cheating, they were able to award these students, the results. So those are some of the successes I can name in terms of how, by understanding the environment, we were able to work with the schools to see transformation in what they did at the sub-region level, in this case with the WACS exam, and then also at the national level just with the pass rate in the local high schools.
Thank you so much for that brilliant explanation. And these are some of the success stories we really like to hear from our country lab bureau. I mean, instead of always seeing all kind of a negative things on social media about our country, which I really do admire. So, Mr. Bollie, we're going to dive into the next discussion, which is technology and innovation. I mean, because we have to break it down from the basic, where we talk about your vision and impact, and you are elaborated on your mission emphasis, how you transforming education look like in practical term, and you gave us some success stories. So we are going to be going to the next discussion, which is technology and innovation. Now, you have evolved from physical labs to an AI power platform. What inspired this transition and how has it changed your reach, Mr. Bollie?
Right. So that's a great question. So, and this all goes back to the previous 8 years before there was any commercially available AI at the time. So what we used to do back then, or what I used to do back then, was when we knew that what the students' life outside of the classroom was impacting their study behavior, we decided to, apart from just knowing what the names were, we wanted to understand, okay, what size of family do you come from? Are you the first of how many kids, or are you the middle kid? Does your mom work? Does your pa work? Do they have, what level of education do they have? And so I took all of that information and started to put it in Excel and then create do data analysis around that. We did evaluation of the students. So basically we gave them a test which evaluated them one grade below the current grade. So for example, if you were a 12th grader, we evaluated you at the 11th grade level to be able to baseline your level of education. And then we took all of that, put that in Excel, and quickly what we saw was that people whose moms didn't have a high school education, and if the mom was a single parent and she has at least 5 or more kids, those were the students who were struggling the most. So in other words, compared to their peers, the best possible outcome they could have in doing passing the class were out of C minus. So this is from like maybe 69 to 75. Average, that would be the best possible outcome they could do. In general, again, of course, there will be exceptions where you have these smart students who might do better than that. But in general, for that population, single mom, no high school education, 5 or more kids, and if this high school student was the first in our family, then what that meant was when they go home, they aren't studying right away. They either have something on their head in the street selling, or they go into the market to help their mom, or they will be home taking care of their siblings and cooking. And so because of that, they didn't have the time to study like the other peers would. So we took all of this information and started to do an Excel analysis around it and then see, okay, what can I do for that struggling student? So maybe, for example, some of them is just improving the vocabulary, which was something they struggle with. So if you improve the student's vocabulary, if you tested the student, or instead of giving the student, say, 5 questions of difficult homework, you give them maybe 3 questions, and that is a relatively easier, but it's still testing the understanding of the concept. We were able to see that could map to improvement in the test scores. So all of those relationships I started to see when I worked with Excel. And then fast forward, ChatGPT comes along, and now I realize, well, I don't have to do all of this manually in Excel. I'm going to take it, move it into ChatGPT, and ask it what other relationships in the data can they see that I could leverage. And pretty soon I started to see a lot of different things that I could leverage within there. Like, for example, students who haven't been exposed to computer or haven't used computer for any kind of academic level, those also were students who struggle. So we started to do a lot of correction for that, basically doing simple computer exposure. So we had also the computer lab that we started to allow students to have access and knowledge to basic Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and that sort of thing. And so all of those simple things started to help the students to improve. And so we took all of this logic and started to build it into what we would eventually become Teacher Pepe. So we wanted the AI now to use all of our 8 years of training and use that as a way now to help the teachers to be able to properly help the students in the classroom. So that was the innovation piece of it. Again, now we're training the AI on local data in addition to all of the Western data it already have. So
okay, I see.
Yeah,
because I'm sorry for interjecting, but I see what you're saying, because it was bringing me to my next question. I see you talk about the students, how you did the data and all that thing. Okay, so now this is my question. This one is for the teachers. Now, how does your AI platform support teachers who may have limited access to technology or training? How is it helping them? How does your AI platform support teachers? Yeah.
So I fall back on the iPhone principle. One of the genuine one of the innovation of the iPhone is the ease of use. Basically any Oma, you can give it to the Oma and they can see the button. If they can read a little bit, they can press, you see the phone call symbol, the green phone call symbol means you can answer the call or to make the call, or the red means you hang up the call. So those simple logic and those simple user interfaces was part of what made iPhone brilliant. I mean, I'm oversimplifying the process, but so essentially the user interface on the iPhone was it removed a lot of barriers for people who had limited or no technology exposure. So we took the same kind of principle in the way we design the software, so that teachers who had limited or no access but can, but know exactly what, for example, lesson planning, you name a button, lesson planning. Any teacher knows exactly what lesson planning is. So, you want to do lesson planning, you click on the lesson planning button and you select the subject that you want to do lesson planning for, and you want to say 1 day or 1 week, and boom, you have everything right there before you. So the first thing we did was to make sure the words and the way we lay out the software was simple enough that the teacher didn't have to do a lot of learning. We called it the friction. We remove a lot of friction so that it was a simple related to your everyday use of whatever you did as a function as a teacher. And so you can just click on lesson planning or do quiz or do homework or do wax preparation. All of those things are phrases and words that you are used to. So there was nothing new you really needed to learn other than, using these basic things, vocabulary that you were already used to, that we're leveraging for you to be able to carry out your work.
So how are the teacher catching up with you so far?
Well, the teachers have been great. I mean, the guys in BAM, for example, they have been like one of the biggest champion of Teacher Pepper, using Teacher Pepper, because it's really simple to use, and so they love it. Because some of them had told me when I was in NIMBA just in January, they were saying back then when they got the curriculum from Ministry of Education, just to find the materials to do all of the lesson planning would take anywhere from 4 to 10 hours to be able to find all of the relevant teaching materials they would need. I think they called it the Akiola series. That's what they use in Liberia, and get all those books. But now, wow. It takes less than a minute for you to plan a whole week lesson. So you go in there and you click on, make sure everything that I do aligns to Ministry of Education. I want 1 week lesson plan, and under 1 minute you have a whole week lesson plan that you can use to be able to teach, and is very relevant to the context in which you will be teaching.
Wow. Yeah, because I was just about to ask how the teacher in the rural area do it. Because most of the men, they were not really into technology that I expect. So we're talking about technology, mostly were just in the capital in Montreal, not in Monrovia. So what I would say is that what makes your approach to AI in education different from other ed tech solutions?
Oh yeah, that's another good question. So one of the things we've been talking about over and over here is the context. So context is everything. Context is the difference maker here. So we aren't just bringing a technology that's been trained on another context or Western data and bringing it and giving it to students to use. So that's one. That's number one. That's why we call it Teacher Pepper. So we all kind of know of a Teacher Pepper in our own growing up experience. When we say, "Oh, that Teacher Pepper, he can play," Yeah. So that's why I called it Teacher Pepper, to show that
the teacher that won't play people fail in the class, then they say you're a good teacher.
Yeah, exactly. So but we wanted it to be that way. And then another thing is, Teacher Pepper talks to 3 of the most popular AI engines at the same time. So when you log into Teacher Pepper,
I'm sorry for that. We will come to Teacher Pepper. I want to keep Teacher Pepper for the last, because I know you want to get into that Teacher Pepper. Myself anxious, and my audience, let me tell you, the reason why I'm trying to save Teacher Pepper for the last is because this is a very, very interesting guy, computer guy, I would call him. So what I'm actually trying to do I'm trying to get the basic, because we want to know what makes your approach to that AI education different from other ed tech solutions.
Right.
So, give us some things that make yours different. But Teacher Pepper will come to you. You'll have a lot of time to elaborate on Teacher Pepper.
Right. Okay. So what makes our approach different is, so number one is the context. We are very considerate of the context in which we are deploying our solution. That's number one. 2 is we have we are able to cross-reference between all of the popular AI engines out there so that we are removing what you call the hallucination. Because sometimes AI can make up stuff, even though you know that's still why they are artificially intelligent. So you want to be able to cross-reference and remove any kind of AI hallucination, or in simple terms, don't want the AI to lie to you. So we have a way of making sure that whatever the AI tells us is true and is not making up stuff. So that's another thing that makes ours different from there. And then also, like I already mentioned, you can do lesson planning under 1 minute for any kind of subject. That's another thing. You can do grading. So now you can grade plenty of students. Up to 100 papers you can grade out under 1 minute with feedback for each student. And so those are the different things that makes us different. But I think the most unique one is the fact that we are built on 8 years of data, 8 years of real data for over 2,000 students in Liberia. So we aren't just taking a new technology and bringing it. These are from students that walk through our doors, students who's that we're able to interact with and see the transformation, who are either graduates or LU or in the University of Liberia. We have, I think, another girl who's in Luanda now going to school. We communicated a few months ago. So we have students who are out there and making, thriving and reaching their goals and reaching their dreams. So when we consider the context, I would say that's a fundamental thing that makes our EdTech solution different from other EdTech solutions out there.
Thank you. So before we go to the break, we will go into this next discussion before we can go into the break, which will be about community and accessibility. Now, how do you ensure your solution remain accessible and culturally relevant across different communities that you visited in Liberia?
So the accessibility, one of the things we do is to make sure, for example, you should not be limited to only having a laptop or a desktop for you to have access to to the tools. So you can have your regular phone. If you have any kind of smartphone, whether it's Android or Apple, it will be able to work on it. So there's nothing that's stopping you from being able to use the tool. And then number two, like I mentioned, there's no technological jargon when you open the tool. For example, when you look at it, it's very simple English that any teacher will be able to follow, to be able to understand. Because one of the things that makes it easier for people to adapt a technology is when they don't have a lot of barriers in terms of you don't need to go learn a whole lot of new knowledge for you to be able to use that technology. It makes it easier. So we take all of what people already know and try to build on that and represent it to them. So in that way, it's easier for them to use. And then another thing too, we are able to make sure whether you have low data or no data, that we are able to provide you some kind of access to the to the tools, so that you are still able to work and leverage the capabilities as well.
Got you. All right. Now, have you gone beyond Liberia? Or is this teacher? This whole thing is only about Liberia.
It's interesting that you should ask. I know you said we will save Teacher Pepper for last, but so right now I will tell you off the bat, Teacher Pepper speaks 3 languages: English, French, and Swahili.
Okay, yeah. We gotta pull it Teacher Pepper into the last, because so what challenges have you faced when scaling Liberia as a whole? What are some of the challenges you faced? Because I saw you went to ban all the places there. I don't know how the rules are now, but you went to all the places. What challenges have you faced?
Well, I think the main challenges haven't been trying to get there. I think one of the biggest challenges that we face and we are still facing is people still two things. One is people see Teacher Pepe as AI. So, I already have AI. I have access to ChatGPT. I don't need another AI. So that's one of the confusion. That's one of the biggest challenges we face to date about when it comes to trying to integrate Teacher Pepper within the school system in the country, namely because people still haven't learned or at least heard about the distinction between what Teacher Pepper is versus the regular Chat GPT out there, for example. Like other AIs, Chat GPT and all of those types are all trained on Western data. What Teacher Pepper brings, what we do is completely, for the most part, different, as you say. We take all of what AI already does and then we contextualize that so that it's relevant to the context and the culture that is found in, and it's very, very important if the AI will be effective. So one of the challenges that we are working our way through as we talk to schools, as we talk to teachers, is trying to make that distinction of where the lines of other AI stop and where Teacher Pepper line begins. For example, meaning the cultural context and all of those different things that are relevant to Liberia. The next one has to do with cost, because data in Liberia, the cost of data in Liberia, it can be prohibitive, especially for smaller schools that are even struggling to keep the population. And now if they have to pay $1 or $2, for example, to be able to have data on the phone or data period, to have internet to be able to get Teacher Pepper to work. So that's another challenge we face, and the good thing we've done with Teacher Pepper is to give it this offline capability, wherein if there's no internet, it's still able to function and provide some level of relevance and support to the teacher. So I would say those are the two key challenges we face, and we are still facing to date, but we are still meeting them heads on, doing the education piece, and then also making sure that what we do with Teacher Pepper is not hogging or taking a lot of data and therefore costing people a lot of money, because the goal is to run Teacher Pepper for an academic year should be less than the cost of one student in the school, and that's basically how it's designed to be.
Thank you. That is the voice of Rodney L. Bollie. Mr. Bollie, before we go for the break, how do you balance technology with human element of teaching?
Right, and that's a great question. So how do we IBT balance technology with the human element of teaching? It's quite simple for us from where I sit, namely because Teacher Pepper is designed to be a supportive tool to the teacher. We believe the teacher plays an important role, an invaluable role in the classroom, one that is irreplaceable. Namely because there are years of teaching, years of human interactions that you cannot simply code for in some AI or any type of computer code. Namely, the ability to just look at somebody and tell that they are struggling. That's more on a human to human level interaction, because the process of learning is holistic, is not discrete, like it starts here and it ends here, or if you take this test, if you pass or fail, you've learned. So that view where technology will one day replace the teacher is, I would wager, is a dangerous position to take. Namely because it's just taking a computer screen and sticking it before a student to learn a concept is almost encouraging them to memorize, to produce output, to produce answer, when in reality what education should be, it would be the ability to foster thinking, independence, individuality, to be able to take information and see how that can be repurposed specifically for your environment, specifically for your life, and so on. And so we see technology as a supplemental tool to the teacher, so that it relieves the teacher of some of the administrative burdens, like grading the papers or lesson planning, for example. Those can be things that are left to the domain of technology and free up the teacher time, so the teacher has that 45 minutes or an hour that he or she has to be able to look in the class, to be able to teach, to be able to spot that one or two students who might be struggling. That's what we believe technology should be able to help the teacher accomplish. And then you get this full experience of education, with that human to human interaction. And one of the examples I like to give has to do with this whole notion of self-driving cars. What we have to do is not really self-driving car, but we throw that language around, or those phrases around, because it makes great commercial sense to sell to people that you have this self-driving car. Speaking of the human element, where if we were at an intersection, you in another car, I in another car, just by looking at you, I can tell if you're gonna allow me to go cut in front of you and go or not. It's not something most of the so-called self-driving cars won't be able to code for, won't be able to have all of the smarts or technology in the world to be able to detect those kind of things without something else happening. And so the same argument can be made for why we cannot simply replace a teacher by a piece of hardware in the classroom. That piece of hardware, in whatever shape or form, should support the teacher, and the eventual outcome for all of us will be a very productive, a very educated, a very intellectual student. That's the role we seek to foster by introducing Teacher Pepper in the classroom.
Thank you. So you're here, you can be riding this self-driving car then. Nobody will get contact. The other day we saw some Kamene, the black and still trying to call us out. That is true. There are certain things humans can do, AI can do it. So there will be this self-driving car. You just heard Mr. Bollie. Like when you're in the traffic center, you can give the other driver eye contact. You will tell whether he will allow you to go. AI don't know all that thing. All AI knows is just supposed to get the other thing and go. All right, but people, we will take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be getting into the discussion of the famous Teacher Pepper. We'll be checking on the authenticity and data integrity of Teacher Pepper, the AI reliability and accountability of Teacher Pepper, the real impact and promise of Teacher Pepper. So we'll be right back. We'll take a break, and we'll come right back to Mr. Bollie. I know you're enjoying the interview so far. So just go grab more popcorn, go grab the water.
The Institute of Basic Technology is more than a 501(c) nonprofit organization. It's a movement transforming education where it's needed most. When we return from the break, the conversation goes deeper. Dr. Bollie will take us inside the story behind Teacher Pepper, not just another AI tool, but a system built from the ground up with real classroom experience in Liberia. This isn't theory. This is 8 years of lived data, real teachers, real students, real challenges, transformed into a powerful solution. Imagine an AI that doesn't just generate content, but understands context, delivering lesson plans, exam prep, and student support that actually reflects the classrooms it serves. From WASP preparation to identifying at-risk students, Teacher Pepper is redefining what education technology should look like in undeserved communities. You don't want to miss this. Stay with us.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Bollietv with my guest, Mr. Rodney L. Bollie, in studio today. We have been discussing the Institute of Basic Technology. We have been elaborating on the technology innovation, the community accessibility, the vision and impact. And now we are here. He also talked about the teachers and capacity building and how he can balance technology with human element of teaching. So Before we continue with the program, today we are diving into a powerful conversation at the intersection of education, innovation, and impact. Across under-resourced communities, access to quality education remains one of the greatest challenges of our time. But solutions are rising, driven by visions, experience, and technology. So, like I said, joining us today, our guest in studio today, is a leader at the front line of that transformation. So before we took the break, I told you guys when we come back, we'll be talking about the famous Teacher Pepe. So before we get into Teacher Pepe discussion, Rodney, before we go even into the discussion about authenticity and data integrity, tell us just short, let me 1 minute about Teacher Pepe before we start asking the question, so the audience can know what the Teacher Pepe, why you invented Teacher Pepe, what Teacher Pepe can do. Just in 1 minute, then before going, we'll dive into the questions. Then you will answer more during the course of the questions.
Right. So Teacher Pepe is the only AI solution, is only the solution that draws on multiple AI agents to support teachers in Liberia, in West Africa, in a very contextualized way. So basically looking at the surrounding data to be able to re-explain a lot of complex ideas to the teachers to be able to support them in explaining them or teaching the students.
Got you. So before we took the break, you emphasized that Teacher Pepe is built on local Liberian classroom data. Now, how do you ensure that that data remains unbiased and truly representative of all groups?
Right. So number one, to begin with, the data we collect is regardless of race, sex, or creed, or whatever you believe, is basically what type of family do you come from, what do you do after school, how long do you have to study. Those are the things that we are looking at objectively, and then testing you to see if this is your background and you are at this level. Say you're a 12th grade student, do you have enough, or do you know enough at that point to be able to graduate 12th grade, pass the WAEC and all of those things. So those are the things that we are testing, and so we are looking at the data in a very objective way, regardless of, we aren't looking at if this person is a Christian, do it this way, so we don't care about your background in that regard. It's basically family composition and the different obligations you have that can impact your time to invest in your learning. So we are measuring that and then looking at, okay, what can we do different to help you improve your ability to learn the material and then also graduate. So that's basically what we are measuring, and that's what we are looking at.
Wow. So what safeguards are in place to prevent the system from reinforcing existing inequalities within the education system?
Right. So the beauty of Teacher Pepe, when you talk about equality and accessibility, for example, so somebody who might have visual impairment, Teacher Pepe will speak to you in audio. So, and I'm hoping one day I can have another person record. So right now, if you listen to Teacher Pepe, you'll hear my voice. So basically, my voice will tell you explain anything to you in this case, but in an audio format. So that's one of the ways. If you are visually impaired as a teacher and need to leverage the Teacher Pepe, for example, we have that audio component, that you can use to be able to hear and then hear the information and then be able to explain that to your students. And then also, because we have limited Teacher Pepe right now to only teachers, so it's assumed that everybody's using it is over the age of 18 or above as an adult. And number three, the contents that are being generated are bounded in such a way that you aren't going to have Teacher Pepe generate anything that is inappropriate. So whether it be something like porn related, or even if you were going to try to generate an information that could be insulting to another religion. So those are things that Teacher Pepe, because of the bounds and the barriers we have in there, will not allow you to be able to do that. It has to be strictly related to the lesson, and then it has to be justifiable within the academic context. So you can do something like the human reproductive system, for example, because you need to understand that for biology. So we aren't going to go anywhere beyond that. That would be, going skirting the norms of what you should be able to know at the high school level for you to be able to understand the material and to be able to graduate.
So is there any way we can hear Teacher Pepe a little bit in this interview? Just maybe a little. Is it possible?
Yeah, so it's going to be tough. I mean, I can do it, but it might be a little tough to do. So that's fine. I can try to log in here. So I'm logging into my computer now.
Yeah, maybe. And, so we can hear Teacher Pepe.
Say that again?
I said so we can hear Teacher Pepe.
Yes, so I'm going to log in right now and then do something really simple and something really basic. Oh, sure. So in this video, we are going to go ahead and now I've been ready itching to demonstrate Teacher Pepe to you. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of demo of the Teacher Pepe software. So come along. So in this video, I would like to demonstrate an aspect of many aspects actually of Teacher Pepe. As you can see, Teacher Pepe has the ability to do the wax exam where you can generate endless wax, which is the West African Senior Certificate exams that students in West Africa take in 12th grade in order to be considered graduate ready, college ready, as I should say. So here in this wax, we have all of these simulator exam left. You have all of the questions and then the answer sheet here. So as you are answering those, for example, you can have that kind of simulation. And as you go below, you are able to download the paper version of these. And you are able to print them out if you have like many students to sit the WAS, for example. We have the same thing for the 9th graders for the West African exams. You can do likewise here. But what's cool about Teacher Pepe, of some of the features we recently added are the what we call the virtual labs. And the key thing of the virtual labs, we wanted to be able to answer that money issue, which a lot of financial constraints, what a lot of schools face. So the virtual lab is a way to be able to bring the lab to the schools, to the students, without having to pay thousands of dollars to get the state-of-the-art lab in your school. So in this case, you can see right here we have this. This is a biology lab, for example, and here you have the beating heart, and you see here I can interact with this heart, and zoom in. If I wanted to zoom into a specific artery and see different things, that's something that's quite possible today and now in Teacher Pepe. And so I have different versions of the heart. You can look at the heart from different angles. In that first place, we sliced through and you could see inside. And these numbers show you, give you different information about the heart. And if I wanted to take it one step further, Teacher Pepe is right below here. I can ask Teacher Pepe to explain to me either through written form. You have the explain it here, simply explain it in a very simple form, or I can have or I can listen to what Teacher Pepe is explaining in an audio form. So if I did this one first, so right now what you should see is Teacher Pepe thinking through how to explain what I am looking at. So So shortly, you will see here now I have the full information of what Teacher Pepper just wrote, and I'm looking at that here, and I can also hear Teacher Pepper read this information to me as well. Take a listen.
Welcome to your amazing heart, my dear student. What you're seeing is your heart, that powerful muscle in your chest that beats about sending blood to every part of your body. Think of it like the engine of a pen motorcycle. It has to keep running non-stop to keep you moving and alive. Your heart has 4 rooms, we call them chambers. 2 on top called atria, and 2 on bottom called ventricles. Just like how a good KK driver knows when to let passengers in one door and out another, your heart has valves that open and close to make sure blood flows in the right direction and doesn't go backwards. Here's how it works, small.
I think this is really cool.
The filling up. Blood comes back from your body into the top chambers.
So again, there's nothing to really be said here other than it answers a lot of the pressing questions many teachers have with updated textbooks, access to state-of-the-art laboratory, and now just with Teacher Pepper alone, you are able to do a whole lot, as you can see here, for example. So in this case, what I want to do now is what you should see me here is as a teacher, I've built my the information to my classroom, and then now what I'm going to do, let's assume in this case I want to be able to communicate with a parent about a student who's in class and that student is, for example, struggling. And so let's assume, like we mentioned before, most of the students who struggle tend to come from a single parent home where the mom has no high school education. So because of that, I want to be able to let her know her son is struggling. You know, I look at the grades as the teacher, and I want to be able to invite her to a meeting. So what you should see me doing here in Teacher Pepper right now is I'm going to try to set up a meeting to be able to talk to this mom and invite her student in, invite her in, for to come and talk. So what I'm doing right now, as you can see, I'm talking about John Jay, who's struggling academically. So you have multiple reasons for which you can want to contact the parent here, but in this specific case, I'm going to say John Jay is struggling academically, and I'm going to, here you have the option to select a voice message, so to generate a voice message. So when I generate the voice message, what you will see here now is Teacher Pepper will drive that short communication to the parent, and once is generated, now you should be able to hear Teacher Pepper talk. So
Will the message be generated in our Liberian
voice
calendar?
message, Mr. Bollie to parent, 45 seconds max. Good evening. This is Mr. Bollie from Cat School, Mathematics Department. I'm calling regarding Janjay's progress in 12th grade mathematics. Janjay is a good student, but I have noticed the work is becoming challenging right now. I would like to sit down with you and Janjay together to understand what is happening and how we can help. Perhaps there are things at home or in class we need to address. Please, can you come to school this week? We want Janjay to succeed. Thank you.
Wow,
Okay, so
that's
there you
impressive.
have it. So that would be a voice message that would be sent to a parent, for example, asking the parent to come to school, and can have a conversation about their student.
Wow. Now, can Teacher Pepper speak some more colloquial and for example, where you have the kind of a colloquial when you go in the market, where you can speak to the market money for them to understand. Can Teacher Pepper do all that?
Yeah, so right now Teacher Pepper is trained on my voice, and so I try my best Liberian colloquial. So like I said, in the future, one of the things I will be doing, I will be recording using another person's voice, so that it sound, since I've been here over 20 years now, so my Liberian English is not all of the best, but I try to make it simple and so they can understand. But in the future, what we're going to do is especially for the market Oman, then we're going to get somebody to re-record. So now when you generate the voice, it will be like real Kodoko, like, Oman, can you come to school? Janje is struggling, we need to talk. So something like that. That's something that will happen in the future.
Okay.
But right now, as you can hear, it's still, for the most part, has a Liberian accent. Is something that is closer to the Liberian context compared to a completely Western sounding voice that might be asking or trying to get the parent to do the same thing. So the goal here is a very short message. Your child is struggling, come to school for us to discuss. And then other times, we can also, Teacher Pepper will also send a voicemail that say, oh Madam so-and-so, can you find somebody in the neighborhood that goes to that goes to our school to that Janje can work with to be able to help Janje in the classroom. So the goal is in the future we will make it even more basic at our colloquial level. But for now, we have the Liberian accent and we have a simple voice message. So we can do voice message, we can do text message as well. And then for the more advanced parent, we can generate a full email where we can explain all of the details. Instead of you coming to school, you have a full detail with the grades and everything there explaining to you what your child is struggling with.
Thank you. All right, now we'll go into the next discussion, which is AI reliability and accountability. So this brings me to this question. When Teacher Pepper flex and at the risk, student who is ultimately responsible for the judgment, the AI or the teacher. So who will be responsible now? Let's say when Teacher Pepper made mistake, when he flex.
So, and that's a good question. Again, it goes back to what makes what we do different, right? And so now that I can talk about Teacher Pepper. So Teacher Pepper, so right now in the world, the three most sophisticated AI engines in the world right now are OpenAI ChatGPT, Claude that's made by Anthropic, and Gemini that's made by Google. Those are the three most sophisticated and popular AI engines right now. They have other ones. You have DeepSeek made by China, for example. But these three are the most popular and most advanced AI engines today. No question. So now these three are embedded in Teacher Pepper. So for example, when a teacher asks us, put an input into Teacher Pepper to do something or chat with Teacher Pepper, for example, Teacher Pepper will talk to these three popular AI right away. They are all built into Teacher Pepper. So Teacher Pepper will ask Gemini, will ask ChatGPT, and will ask Claude to explain something. And then the next step is Teacher Pepper will take all three of what they present, and then Teacher Pepper will synthesize that. So in that synthesizing process, if there's anything that's wrong, for example, maybe ChatGPT is saying, the capital city of Liberia is Christopolis, and Gemini is saying it's Monrovia, and Claude is saying it's Monrovia. So obviously, Teacher Pepper will go with Monrovia. So that's one way, because we are talking to the three most advanced AI engines at the same time, we are able to get rid of any kind of lies or any kind of false information right there, for example. So we synthesize that information, and then the next thing is we take that synthesized information now, and then we contextualize it. So once Teacher Pepper gets that, Teacher Pepper know, I'm a Liberian teaching assistant, so anything I say or
38 seconds spoken at natural pace.
Sorry. So anything I say or anything I do now will be based on explaining in the Liberian language, for example. So it might be if you're explaining a process of motion in physics, for example, Teacher Pepper, after all of these three different engines explain, then it will say, oh, imagine like you're riding down Mecklin Street Hill on a keke going down Waterside. So Teacher Pepper will take all of what it has already synthesized from these people and then re-explain it in the Liberian context. So if you in Monrovia, for example, you know what it means to be in a keke going down the hill, going down waterside. So those are the different things that Teacher Pepe can do. So we are able to cut down any kind of AI hallucination like right away, which you won't be able to do if you rely on only a single AI. And then you also taking advantage of any new improvement that's coming from those 3 AI. Teacher Pepe gets that, and then on top of that, we also are developing additional improvement here. Part of what we didn't do, you can chat live with Teacher Pepe instead of just doing like a voice message. Maybe you don't want to keep typing. You can click the mic and have a whole conversation with Teacher Pepe and ask Teacher Pepe to do something. You can say, draw a picture of a student going to school, or draw a picture of a teacher in the classroom using your voice, and Teacher Pepe will draw that for you. So all of those things are different features that we have put there. And then one of the other features you have in Teacher Pepe is the virtual classroom, where you can, as a teacher, you can get in the classroom and bounce idea off of 3 other people that are virtually inside of the classroom. Even before you present your actual teaching material to the students, you can present that in a virtual classroom, so that you can even better anticipate some of the questions that people will ask, some of the better ways you can explain all of that too. Those are different things that you can do just in one AI. I wouldn't want to call Teacher Pepe an AI, but one teaching assistant that you would be hard pressed to find in other AIs right now, or other edtech solutions right now, which are relying on only one of the the 3 AI engines like I mentioned.
So Mr. Bollie, I just got a quick question. I understand the explanation, but this is what I want to know. Let me put it in simple labyrinth. When Teacher Pepe made mistake, I don't know if he can make mistake. Who is ultimately responsible for that judgment? Is it the Teacher Pepe or the teacher? Because you saying the teacher should rely on Teacher Pepe for materials and all that thing, and you're talking about how sometimes Teacher Pepe can contact other AI men to see everything correct. And if 2 persons come up, 2 of the other engine, search engine comes up with the same answer, then Teacher Pepe will pick that answer. What if those answers are not correct?
Right. So right now that's a very rare instance if you find it, because of how we design Teacher Pepe. So there are one other thing that's happening that I didn't mention also. So apart from the 3 AI agents we have, we also have our resident knowledge. In this case, all of the things that we have learned over 8 years is also in there that form part of the quote-unquote the brains of Teacher Pepe. So when Teacher Pepe gets something from somewhere, also make sure is contextualized. And ultimately, in the end, when the teacher looks at the material, or when he looks at the final output from Teacher Pepe, is also a judgment call, right? So he has output of 4 different things. Our synthesized Teacher Pepe output from each of the that's combined from the 3 AIs, and then you have the 3 individual outputs from all of the 3 AIs as well. So you have all of those 4 things. So if you're looking at Teacher Pepe output, you say, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. You can go back to the individual output from ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude to see what they said individually as well. So that's one way you can look at it. And then another simple step in that case, if you still have concerns about what the output, then that's where you resort to, say, something like a Google search, for example, to confirm if that is true. But then again, Google is the one that built Gemini, so essentially you still referring to the same engine to be able to do that. So this is why, again, we are the strongest advocate that those who should adopt AI right now are the teachers, because they are the ones that are most responsible. They've gone to school, they have the experience in teaching that material, and therefore if they were to see an output that doesn't make sense, they're able to catch it quicker than the students who is still learning will catch it. So basically, in this case, the teacher in the end is the last gate before that information is disseminated to the students. So ultimately, it's our job to make sure the information that's presented to the teacher is accurate, but it's also up to the teacher based on their own knowledge and experience, if what's being presented doesn't jive with what they know, then it's up to them to also fact check what's being presented before they give it to the students.
Thank you. Now, there's just a short answer I want. Has Teacher Pepper made mistake before?
So so Teacher Pepper hasn't made mistakes. So I will take it one step further. So when we first started, and Teacher Pepper back then was based on only ChatGPT, yes, we did see some mistakes. So Teacher Pepper would make up some things. So I will give you one example. I know they close it down now. World Trade Center. So everybody who's been going to Liberia, World Trade Center used to be right there on Gerda Street, right by
facing the great document.
And the guys then can make anything in World Trade Center. You go in World Trade Center, they're in that basement, you ask them, they can make you any kind of thing. They can photocopy, but they can literally make anything over there. So that's what World Trade Center is. And so back then, if you ask Teacher Pepper about World Trade Center, we talk about other World Trade Centers in the Western world, for example, in New York or somewhere, but they didn't know about World Trade Center in Liberia. And so when you will ask it about the World Trade Center in Liberia, it would just make up stuff. So that was one of the lies that we caught, and then we had to train Teacher Pepper and say, oh no, World Trade Center is this, it's based on Gerda Street, and these are the different things that you can do at World Trade Center. That's where, again, having that ground truth, that contextual information that the AI hasn't been trained on comes in, because we know and understand that. So we train Teacher Pepper now. So if you were to ask it again now about World Trade Center, it understands you are talking about world, unless you say in America or somewhere else, it understands you are talking about Liberia World Trade Center. But now that we have three AIs now, no, I haven't seen any mistake, because again, like I said, you got the three most powerful AIs, and you are able to, Teacher Pepper is able to use the output to fact check each other. So yes, it will go with the two most accurate ink when it's combining. If one is different, and if there's, for some reason, you have two wrong ones, then of course it will be up to the teacher as the last gating factor to make sure that incorrect information is not released out there. But so far there hasn't been any, and again, this is based on information that's already out there, well researched, and we are leveraging the best of the best to be able to make sure that what our students or our teachers are getting is devoid, or any kind of hallucination is minimized.
Now, how do you validate the accuracy of Teacher Pepper lesson plan and WAC prep materials before they reach to the classroom? How do you validate that?
Yes. So, and that's a good question. So, one of the things we did was, so I got the latest Ministry of Education curriculum, for example, and then I have passed WAC exam from 2019 up to 2024. No, actually from 2016. Yeah, so I found some from 2016 all the way up to 2024. So we have all of those past WAC exam. And then number three, we also, we were in Liberia recently, and so we understood, like, the Ministry of Education asked, one of the recommendation is to use the Akiola series. I think is written by from Ghana. It's a textbook from Ghana. So we have access to all, as much as we can find on those Akiola series for math, English, for example. Those are things that we have access to, that we have trained Teacher Pepper. Again, it comes down again to the context, because when Sam Altman hear them doing the ChatGPT training, they are looking at the sector or the country for which they can make the most buck, so that's who they are training the data for. They're not training it for small country like Liberia, where if you develop for them, you may not have the outcome that you're looking for as far as the return on your investment. So that's where our institution come in, to be able to find these contextual information, like what are you teaching in Liberia, what textbook are you teaching, and then we take all of that, give it to Teacher Pepper, and then train Teacher Pepper and say, anytime you are talking, regardless of the information you find, make sure that you are grounding it in this context. So for example, if you're doing reading comprehension, if I want to teach a student how to do reading comprehension. Then the passages and that they are presented with to test them would be, for example, drawn from Akiota, so that when they read that, they are understanding, they are using an actual textbook, for example, that is being used in like Liberia, or it might be an African novel like Things Fall Apart. We are generating the information from there. So when the student is reading, he or she is reading Things Fall Apart to be able to understand different things, to be able to answer the basic reading comprehension question. So in other words, to answer your question, we are getting the source material from the country and then feeding it to Teacher Pepper and retraining it so that the information is contextually relevant.
All right, people, we will continue, and I can tell you, I hope you're enjoying this program. Like I said, it is very informative and educative. Today, we are diving into powerful conversation at the intersection of education, innovation, and impact. Across honor resource communities, access to quality education remains one of the greatest challenges of our time and people. But solutions are rising, driven by visions, experience, and technology. So as you can see, our guest here joining us is one of the leaders at the front line of that transformation. So I hope you're enjoying the questions that are coming and you're learning from it. And we are going to be going to the next discussion. We will be the final discussion for this interview, which will be based on the real impact versus the promise. We got Teacher Pepper now. We got to see that we're coming to talk about the real impact of Teacher Pepper and what versus the promise. So, Mr. Bollie, once again, we want to say thank you for accepting our invitation to come to Bollietv. Now, this is my question: how do you prove that your Teacher Pepper performs better than traditional teaching support mentors? How can you prove that?
Right. So, like I mentioned, we are not in this case in competition with the teacher. So Teacher Pepper is a teacher support. So our role is an auxiliary role. So we are there to, when the teacher needs us, we are there to support whatever the teacher needs. So in this case, if the teacher needs to plan his lesson, we are there to support that. Make sure instead of spending 10 hours, you spend only 1 minute planning your lesson. If the teacher needs to grade homework or grade quizzes or tests, we are there to help with the grading, provide customized feedback to each of the students in the classroom. So our role is not to be better than, but rather to make the teacher better, because we believe when the teacher is better, it helps the students, it helps them, those who are going to LU or other vocational schools, it makes them better. So that's our goal. Our goal is to support the teacher. We want the teacher to be better. It's a collaborative tool, it's teamwork. So that's what we do at the Institute of Basic Technology. Is the teacher should always win. The teacher's life should be easier from the administrative perspective. So when the time is free up, they are able to have time to help students extend their office hours, and working with the students so that more and more students are understanding the materials and graduating on time.
All right. So then what happens if funding or infrastructure fails? Can school continue to function effectively without Teacher Pepper?
Oh, absolutely. So right now, Teacher Pepper is built that way because we understand the environment in which we operate. Number one, data is expensive to begin with. So the way we work right now, when you first turn on Teacher Pepper has some materials that is stored locally on your phone. So in this case, you have some quizzes that are stored, some wax or WIAC information that are stored on your phone. So even if you were to lose your network connection, or maybe you don't have network connection, you still have access to a limited part of Teacher Pepper, but you can still do some of the basic things. For example, you can download Word document of your teaching materials, and you can download the Word document of answers and the questions to different quizzes that you can use right away if you didn't have any kind of internet, that's something that Teacher Pepper will still allow you to be able to do. Or even if you wanted to generate a lecture from a PowerPoint, that's something Teacher Pepper will allow you to do in little or no coverage. And also, when you first turn on Teacher Pepper, you always see the warning there, for example, where you have to ask all 3 AIs at once. We always put a warning there that tells you that your best answer comes from asking all of the 3 for Teacher Pepper to talk to all of the 3 AIs. However, if you are concerned about data, you can pick one of the AIs and Teacher Pepper will only talk to that one AI, for example. So those are the different things that we have built natively into the tool to be able to not be a burden on those who are using Teacher Pepper.
All right, thank you for that answer. So now we will continue with the questions. Now, can a system built so specifically for Liberia adapt effectively to other education systems? How does it require building from ground up with Teacher Pepper?
Oh yeah, so the good thing is right now Teacher Pepper, for the most part, the framework is there, so it will adapt to any system. That's basically why we built it. And once you look in there, apart from the name that's ready native to Liberia, everything else there is reworked to be able to adapt to different locations, right? So like I mentioned before, the 3 languages that Teacher Pepper can speak right now is English, French, and Swahili. So if you were in somewhere like Luanda, for example, and if you log into Teacher Pepper and select Luanda, automatically Teacher Pepper will change everything to Swahili. So the entire the entire environment will be all in Swahili. Your buttons will start being, Swahili instructions. Everything will change. So the only thing we need to do in each country now, as far as understanding the context now for training Teacher Pepper, would be what exactly does life look like there for the students. So what we've been looking at for the most part in Liberia, for example, students come often from either a 1-parent home, 2-parent home, for example. But if you were to go to other Muslim countries where it's easier to find a polygamous family, where a student might be coming from multiple parent home, for example, what that looks like there as far as what they do after school might be slightly different from what we do in Liberia, for example. The curriculum they might be using might be slightly different. They may not be using the Akiola series. They might be using other type of books that might be slightly different, but the overall concept is still the same in terms of the reading comprehension, the test taking tactics, and providing access. So all we're going to be doing there is collecting those socioeconomic background information, like I mentioned before, the family size and what the students do after school, and then bring them into Teacher Pepper and then retrain Teacher Pepper for the specific environment. So it's not a complete build from the ground up. We're not writing a whole lot of new codes. So we'll be writing some computer codes, but now it's really simple, because all we're doing now is we've collected this data in, say, in Kigali, or we collected this data in Ivory Coast right now, and then it's just basically maybe the example I might use in Ivory Coast, maybe instead of saying keke, it might be something something completely different in Ivory Coast, in terms of the type of examples I end up using there, so maybe in Ivory Coast, for example, something like Yahoo, which is what we call sour milk in Liberia. Then when you explaining something like that, if there's a need to use something like sour milk, for example, I'm using Yahoo, for example, to explain a concept in Ivory Coast as opposed to Liberia, because now a lot of Liberians will know Yahoo, for example. Or if if we're talking about different cities and different things in Ivory Coast. So basically, all we really have to do there is really just the contextual data, and everything else is in place. We just take that contextual data and train Teacher Pepper that anytime when I go in the menu and select this specific country, this is how I want you to start thinking. You're no longer thinking as a Liberian teacher, you are thinking thinking as a teacher who speaks French and is from Ivory Coast.
Thank you very, very much. So we have come to the end of this interview. Before I allow you to do your closing and parting statement for at least 1 or 2 minutes, I just have this last question before, so that we can discuss it, and then you can do your closing for the day. If Teacher Pepe disappear tomorrow, will the education system you have built be stronger or dependent?
I hope it would be stronger. Again, when we first started, not what we call Teacher Pepe today was not around. It was all done by Excel sheet and talking to people, and that was where we were able to do all of this from. So if Teacher Pepe were to disappear tomorrow, we will go back. That's what you call the first principles. We'll go back to the first principles of talking to teachers, partnering with teachers, using Excel, and doing the data analysis that way to be able to support the teachers. So I believe the education as it is right now in Liberia is strong, getting strong, and will be stronger tomorrow because of interventions like Teacher Pepe.
Thank you very, very much. All right, Mr. Bollie, once again, thanks for accepting our invitation to do this interview with Bollietv. I will just give you 1 or 2 minutes to do your parting closing statements before we can conclude this discussion.
Okay. Well, excellent. So thank you again, Bollietv. Thanks for giving me the platform to be able to talk about what our institute, the Institute of Basic Technology, a platform my wife and I built back in 2015 to be able to address the pressing need of the education deficiencies within our high school system. And ultimately that resulted into what we call Teacher Pepe, is our EdTech solution that leverages 3 of the most popular AI engines today: ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. And then we synthesize those 3 outputs, and then we contextualize it in the Liberian experience to be able to make the information relevant. Our hope is that by doing all of this, the students who graduate are university ready, or they're able to move on to possibly get the vocational training to support themselves. When you look at the population demographic of Liberia today, of roughly a little over 5 million people, and you have roughly about 60% or so who are 35 or under, if you were to believe the UN data. And then looking at the average 12th grader is 22 years old in Monrovia. So I'm not even talking about the countryside where that average goes up. So if you're 22 years old in 11th or 12th grade, that's a lot of potential. So that's a huge chunk of the population in Liberia still stuck in high school. And if they aren't properly prepared to replace our aging population in the work environment in Liberia, Liberia will be in serious trouble. We will start looking at the foreigners to come and fill in those capability gaps that we so much desperately need in Liberia. So it's important that for what we do with Teacher Pepe, what our institution is doing to prepare our generation to fill in those gaps, so that Liberia is stronger, Liberia is in a better place. And so that's the promise of Teacher Pepe. That's what we are looking to do as we continue to partner across the country, work with schools, support the teachers to be able to do what we are, to be able to help them do what to do best. So that's our goal, that's our hope, and together we can rebuild Liberia and improve the future for generations to come. So, and for if you're out there and you are thinking, how can my school partner and how can you take advantage of this opportunity, feel free to go to our website, institutebasictechnology.org. So there's no off, there's just institutebasictechnology.org, and you'll find information there of how your school can get a free trial of Teacher Pepe, and our staff will be able to go to your location, work with the teachers, get Teacher Pepe installed, and and then we will be able to take it from there. But right now, the opportunity exists for any school to request a free 2-week trial of Teacher Pepe. So thank you.
Today, we dived into a powerful conversation at the intersection of education, innovation, and impact. Across under-resourced communities, access to quality education remains one of the greatest challenges of our time. But solutions are rising, driven by vision and experience and technology. And you also our guest today that joined us, who is one of the frontline leaders that's championing this transformation. Thank you too, and this has been the Bollie Media production. I see you on my next episode. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Hey.